This video covers how to plan nutrient applications in SnapPlus version 3. To start, make sure that you've added the appropriate nutrient sources on the nutrients page. In my example, I have 2 different manure sources added and several fertilizers available. One important thing to note is that any nutrient source that is marked as active will appear in the drop-down lists when you're adding nutrient applications. If you're working with a plan that has many old fertilizers or fertilizers that you're not planning to use anymore, one easy way to make your list more manageable is simply to mark those fertilizers as inactive. This will not delete any previous applications from your plan, but it will make the drop-down menus more easy to manage as you're going through and adding these nutrient applications into the future. The same is true for manure and biosolids. You may have many different manure sources in your list, especially if you've converted a plan that has many historical manure sources. You can choose to mark some of these as inactive, and they will remain in your plan, but they won't be shown in the drop-down menus for planning future applications. Let's head back to the management page. When we're on the management page in the field view, we can access the nutrient application planner by selecting a crop and clicking on nutrient applications in the upper right-hand corner. This will open a panel with lots of different information to help us plan our nutrients. Starting at the top, we can see a reminder of the crop that we currently have selected, which is corn grain. Next to that, we have a reminder of the cropping acres for this field. Note that the cropping acres of a field may be different from the manure spreadable acres or the winter spreadable acres. Finally, we have a reminder of the application seasons and calendar years that are available for the selected crop. This is to help make the connection between the crop that you have selected here on the left and when you might be making relevant nutrient applications. Note that in some cases, like in this example, you might be making applications in the fall of the calendar year prior to when the crop is planted. Down below the labels, we see a table in white and yellow. This is the nutrient accounting table. It shows us the University of Wisconsin recommendations for our selected crop. It shows us how many pounds of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium have already been applied, and it gives us a tally of the over-under based on the difference between these two numbers. In some cases, you might see additional rows added to this table if you have legume nitrogen credits or second or third year manure nitrogen credits that might be relevant to the selected crop. Below the nutrient accounting table, we have a reminder of which soil test value is currently being used to determine the UW recommendations on this crop. We can see to the right a mini map that's showing us our field boundary and any other map layers that are currently turned on in the Maps tab. Down below, we have our nutrient applications table and several different controls available to us for adding nutrient applications and tracking manure. In my example, there are currently no nutrient applications planned for the corn grain. Let's go ahead and add a fall manure application as an example. We can click plus new manure and select our source and our season. We can next select the method. Note that the methods that you see available in this list are determined by the tillage type for this crop. I have selected a no-till corn grain crop. That means that I am not seeing incorporated as an option for my manure application because no-till has no incorporation passes available. However, I can choose unincorporated, which is a surface application, injected, or low disturbance injected because those are consistent with a no-till tillage system. It's important to note that SnapPlus assumes that the tillage system that you select includes any incorporation passes that you're making for the manure. This might mean that you need to adjust your tillage system in order to see the relevant manure application method. In this example, let's say that I surface applied the manure. I select my application method and then enter an application rate. After entering the application rate, SnapPlus shows a summary of the nutrient content of that application. I can also see any flags that might be associated with my nutrient application here on the right, and I can read more about them by expanding this arrow with the More column to understand why I might be seeing a compliance or guidance message. When I open the More dropdown, notice that I have some additional options associated with this manure application. I have a reminder of how many acres this application is planned for, and I also have an option to select if this is going on with a nitrification inhibitor. Over to the right, I have a drop-down menu that allows me to select which manure analysis is used for this application. Back on the nutrients page, you have an option to set a default for what value shows here, but you can also adjust this on a per application basis from this drop-down menu. Next, let's do an example of adding fertilizer and a nutrient system to our winter wheat. We'll start with the nutrient system. I've selected my winter wheat row. Notice that the winter wheat is planted in the calendar year 2026 in the fall. We select this winter wheat row and add any nutrient applications here that go on the wheat. This may include applications that happen in the spring of calendar year 2027. We have a reminder of the available application seasons and years here at the top of the screen. Let's go ahead and add a fertilizer application. We can click Add New Fertilizer and then select our source. In this case, I'll select potassium chloride that goes on in the fall as a surface application. One important thing to note about fertilizer applications is that you can set the timing of the fertilizer, whether it is put on pre-plant, at plant, or post-plant, by expanding this More options and selecting the correct option from the drop-down menu. In this example, I'm highlighting where you see legume credits appear in the nutrient accounting table in SnapPlus version 3. For my 2028 corn silage crop, it receives a legume credit from the prior alfalfa. Next to the legume credit value, I see a pencil with a label that says Adjust Legume Credits. If I click on that pencil, I can access settings to adjust the legume credit based on my stand density and height at killing. Selecting one of these options will change the legume credits that are added in this table. You also have the option to set these legume credit settings on the Farms page. You can select Farm and Crop Year settings in order to adjust the legume credit settings that will apply across all of the fields in your plan. You can adjust this on a field-by-field basis by taking the steps that I just showed. You can also apply nutrient systems from the Management page by selecting Apply Nutrient System. This will bring up a pop-up that will show you your nutrient systems that you have available by selecting the menu on the left-hand side. You have the option to review the nutrient applications that are in the system and make any adjustments as necessary. Once you're satisfied with the details of your nutrient system, you can click Apply System to add it to the field. If you receive a warning about having too few winter spreading practices selected, you can add those for a field by selecting the winter spreading practices here in the nutrient application panel. Making selections here will set the winter spreading practices for this field specifically. If you'd like to set winter spreading practices as a default across this whole farm, you can do that from the farm page in Farm Settings. If you scroll to the bottom, you can see the same list of winter spreading strategies here. Selecting boxes here will select those same practices as a default across the farm, and you can choose to adjust them as needed on a field-by-field basis.